Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Morning Break. I'm Fatma Rizvi.
And I'm Humeras Mirza, and today we have our regular features such as discussing current affairs, an interview with our guest, and Hadith of the Week. And please stay tuned for part 4 of my video diary.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to that. I can't wait. But right now it's time for Hadith of the Week. So what Hadith have you picked out, Humera?
Okay, today I picked a Hadith by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and I think is particularly pertinent to everyone. Let me read it for you. It's the truly powerful person is the one who's conquered himself. It's very short, it's very easy, and as we've mentioned before on the shows, we like the ones that are quite short and easy, and they're easy to remember, they're easy to pass on as well. What I personally like about this is obviously how, really I think what that sums up is that concept of jihad al-nafs, which is really if you do conquer yourself, your desires, your emotions, and just stay focused, then you know that you're kind of sorted really, aren't you?
Yeah, that is absolutely true. But how easy is it really to conquer yourself?
Not very easy at all, really, is it? I don't know. I think, from my point of view, I think that there's, to go with this hadith, there's quite a few things that we could do to make sure that we are working towards conquering ourselves. You know, for example, like I think we've mentioned it before, that if we're angry, then Imam Ali al-Islam has a hadith which says, you know, to sit down and then do this and then do that. Yeah. All of these things contribute towards, I guess, ultimately conquering yourself.
Yeah, no, you're right. And actually, if you try that, it does work. You know, if you are obviously upset or you are angry and you're, you know, standing up and you sit down, you feel a lot better, feel a lot calmer. And then if you lie down, you know, you feel even more relaxed and sort of calm. So it's amazing. How, you know, these are just little techniques how you can control and conquer yourself, and it's really amazing how the Ahl Bayt alayhim Islam, you know, knew so much and gave us so much on how to try and conquer ourselves.
Absolutely. And do you think, I mean, often when we're talking about conquering ourselves, we always resort to talking about anger, but you know, there's so many other desires, or there's so many other just this small little things, isn't it? It's even like, for example, when you go shopping, it's say even your food shopping, forget even clothes or whatever, you know you don't really need stuff, but you just keep putting it in your trolley. And really we shouldn't be doing that, because, you know, for ultimately that food could go to waste, or are we helping the people who really need that food? There's so many things associated to that, but do you think that that's quite easy to do in other aspects of your life, or just when it comes to things like anger?
No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right, actually. Yeah, you do try and do self-control in terms of spending, just generally, whether it's food or clothes, or, you know, anything for the house. So, yeah, and it is a bit difficult, because when you really like something, you might think, oh, no, and you try and justify the cost. But actually, then you think, oh, no, I've got that, and I've got this. There's absolutely no need. It's a luxury. So definitely, when you first like something, you don't think about it, and then you, after a while, then you're like, actually, no, let me think logically. Do I need this? And then, for me, about 80% of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely like that too. And I think another thing that's quite important, and specifically within sort of Asian or Arab cultures more than perhaps white British culture, is that idea of us not knowing when to stop when it comes to eating. Because food is such a big part of our culture, and this falls under that same idea of conquering ourselves, because the Prophet, peace be upon him, has also stated how much food we should eat, right? And I don't think any of us really stick to that. And so even that's quite important. And there's so many things that we don't consider. These all contribute towards us having that sense of control over ourselves. It's not over just major things, is it? It's also just knowing when to stop eating, when to stop talking. Things like silence. Silence is an attribute of a mu'min, and how many of us actually practice that?
Absolutely, yeah, you're quite right. And you know, there's that famous hadith where you know, in terms of food, for example, are you supposed to have like 1/3 water, 1/3 air in your stomach, and then one third is food? And it's like I'm so sure that we sort of have like, you know, 80% or if not 100% food stuffed in our stomachs. So yeah, that is something that we can definitely think about.
And also, I think, I agree, and I think the food thing is something we should really think about. And I know for example, we've discussed this on previous shows as well. But it's also like, you know, I speak to some people and they say to me that it's, you know, that's great, but it's not really doable. It's not, you know, I've even heard some people say, oh, the Prophet, peace be upon him, you know, he was perfect, you know, and that's why it was so easy for him. But no, like that's the whole point, that he was sent as an example for us, and so with the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam. So it is doable, and we can practice it. I'm not saying that we're going to be angels or anything, but I think food, silence, anger, emotions, even like shopping, clothes shopping, whatever, if you can just have that sense of restraint, I'm sure you can build on that. It's probably just you need to start from somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. Yeah, you just need to start from somewhere, and inshallah you can build up and you know, try and bit by bit in all aspects of your life, you know, whether it's food, whether it's clothes, whether it's, you know, anger management, then you can, or treating other people, you know, you should treat people how you want to be treated. So inshallah we can eventually, as the years go on, conquer ourselves. Well, that's a really, really good hadith. Thank you for that hadith, Humera.
Okay, well, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you, as we do every week, if you have any comments or suggestions for future shows or anything you'd like to let us know about, please email us with any suggestions and comments at morningbreak@ahlulbayt.tv. But now it's time for Article of the Week. This week I've got a particularly, I guess, an article that's quite important to me because it's about teachers being stressed out, and I know that it's very stressful being a teacher. I found this article from the BBC News, and the kind of bottom line of it is that a teacher from a school in London has been talking about how teachers don't have enough support, how when they talk about being stressed out, people sort of brush it off like it's not that big a deal, and actually how teaching is the most stressful job. The guy who writes the article also talks about how he likes it because of the adrenaline rush. It's fantastic working with children. It's different to any other job that most people have. But, you know, how he comes across journalists, how he comes across lawyers and people from all professions who have then gone into teaching, and yet they still say, oh my God, this is such a stressful job. They've never been under that amount of stress before. He also talks about the amount of people who, break down because of a profession in teaching, not to put anyone off the profession, of course, but also talks about the amount of people who drop out, who only teach for a certain amount of years and then say they can't handle it anymore. And I just thought this article was interesting because I did used to be a teacher, you know, and I did find it really stressful. So yeah.
Can you then relate to that article? I mean, how come you stopped teaching?
I stopped teaching. I really enjoyed it, and like the guy who writes the article, he says that the working with the children part is actually the most fun and interesting part. Your one day will never be the same. You know, it's just the fact that for me it was the work outside of the lessons. It's just teamed with the fact that you have to deal with behaviour management. You've got 25 to 30 students in each class who are very needy. And you also have this idea of needing to, the pressure of making sure that they achieve, you know, and especially if you've got what you call top sets who are predicted A's, that there's a lot of pressure with that as well. But for me, yeah, it's just the fact that outside of the lesson, when you're already exhausted and you've dealt with rude kids or even the energy that they take out of you, and then you have to go and plan for the next day or for weeks ahead, as well as mark all the books, and it just kind of, for me, it never stopped. Yeah.
So then you also found it you did actually find it stressful then, obviously it was. You can obviously relate to the fact that obviously it's an issue then, isn't it?
It's definitely an issue, and I completely agree with him that teachers need more support, because I even, after the first year of teaching, I went to my head of department and I said, I mean, I was fine at that point, but I just said, you know what, I'm starting to get this feeling like I'm not really enjoying it anymore, and I'm not sure whether I'll be continuing in next year. And although he was really supportive and he was great, his attitude was like, okay, yeah, no, don't worry about it. All teachers are like that. And I was saying, yeah, I know, but, you know, I'm really feeling like this, and I really feel like, yeah, I know, all teachers are like that. You know, I even feel like that now, and I've been teaching for 20 years, and it was sort of like, oh God, I don't want to be 20 years down the line still feeling like this. And my worst fear was that I didn't want to become one of those teachers who the kids can just tell that you don't want to be there and you're really grumpy. I kind of left at a point where I still had a really good relationship with them, and I think that they knew that I enjoyed teaching them as well. So, yeah.
What do you think that will help, like, to try and combat this sort of stress that all teachers are kind of feeling and facing? What type of support can the government or can independent bodies give them?
In an ideal world, a great place to start, from, in my opinion, would be, I know everyone says this, but smaller classrooms, you know, smaller size groups. So, yeah, I mean, I had some small groups, and the dynamics in that classroom were completely different to when you have 30 kids, because of the fact that, you know, you're really trying to give every single one of them attention. Someone might be, it's inevitable that someone will kick off in a classroom. That's what all schools are like. Then that's fine. I guess outside of the classroom, it would be nice if all teachers could be given time specifically to deal with things like workload, marking, because you do get you know, time in your timetable. You might have an hour a day if you're lucky, but then the rest of that has to be done outside of your time teaching. And often in your breaks, to be honest, you don't really get breaks and lunches, because kids will turn up at your classroom to talk to you about something, or, you know, you might be offering extra help for something, detentions, break duty. And your time just goes so quickly that you end up at the end of the day with this big pile of work to do for the next day after being exhausted already. So I just think that a little bit of extra time and probably smaller groups within classrooms would be a great help, because teaching as a profession is amazing.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think I personally benefited from going to a school where there were only 16 of us in a class. And that was really beneficial, because you know, the teachers were totally happy and calm, and they were even happy to stay even after the lesson with you if you had any questions or queries. And it was because you can tell now that where I did my GCSEs, they were less very easygoing, happy, stressed out, and where I did my A-levels, they just didn't have the time of the day, because I went to an actual, you know, government kind of paid school when I did my A-levels, and so the classes were much bigger, you know, 30 children, and it was just, they really didn't like it if you said, can you please just explain to me this further after the class? And the teachers were just like, on their face, they were like thinking, no. But of course they had, you know, some of them had to. But you can just tell there is a big difference there.
I think it's interesting what you said, because I think the kind of environment in two different types of schools, a government school and then a private education, they are very different. But from a teacher's point of view, because I've had experience of both, when I was teaching in a private school, it was a very well-established school, and it had been around for ages. I mean, talking about hundreds of years. That was very pressurized, in the sense that people are paying for their kids' education. You have to make sure there's no way that they can't get the grade they've been predicted. And there's a different set of pressure. But, you know, I really have to rate all the teachers out there, and I think Islamically, even outside of Islam, it's an amazing profession. Amazing.
Okay, so now it's time to talk about sports. Humera, do you like sports?
Yes, in small amounts. I don't mind sports, but I'm more of a gym person, I guess. Why?
Well, we went off to go see a brother who actually is an archery instructor. And he actually teaches kids at school archery. And this is something that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to do also. So let's just take a look at the clip.
My name is Jihad Shamis, and I'm an archery instructor. I've been doing archery for about 6 years now as a hobby, and I had opportunity to change my line of work last year, and so I thought I would make my hobby a more full-time activity, so I took to teaching in a full-time capacity. Archery has a number of benefits. Coming from an Islamic point of view, we know that archery is part of the Muslim history and the Muslim heritage. The benefits are that it relieves one's stress. And there is a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that when you're stressed after a battle or whatever, then go and play with your bow and arrow, and it will help you to relieve yourself and de-stress yourself. It also helps you to focus mentally and to concentrate, and it improves your discipline as well. It's a very therapeutic sport. It helps you to release a lot of energy, negative or positive, that people have. It's very useful for people, even in the mental health industry. They use it for people to help them de-stress themselves as well. And it has many of those benefits, and also for young children it gives them a good sense of discipline as well. Just keep it straight up is fine, okay? So we're going to do this one at a time, okay? So Jasmine, you stand there, I'm going to come to you in 1 second, right? So what I want you to do is, good, you've got your 3 fingers under, slight bend, okay? Looking at the target, you need to pull back a bit more to the mouth, a bit more, if you can, look at the target, and then whenever you're ready, you just release. Go on. Okay, good. All right. The key skills that are developed in archery is the ability to focus and concentrate, as well as being disciplined, doing the same thing every single time, so that you eventually reach the target in a particular spot, and being able to focus on that spot for a certain length of time. And I want your feet, rather than one bent, one like that, standing up straight like that. Okay, good. Relax that shoulder, hand to the mouth, lower a bit, good. Pull it back a bit more. That's it, good. And then release. Good. Archery is a non-contact sport, so like football, rugby. Tennis is also non-contact, but it's certainly more demanding in terms of your cardiovascular requirements. In archery there's no running, but the skills that are developed, or the differences are, it's more of a mental sport. Has much more of a mental factor to it, and it does develop the skills of being able to focus, to concentrate, and disciplining yourself as well. There are archery clubs all up and down the country. They usually offer beginner courses, so it might be 2 sessions or 3 sessions to give them a taster to the sport, and if that's something that they enjoy, then they can probably join that club, and go from there really. The next step that we do is also horseback archery, so mounted archery, and if people are interested in that, then they can also get in touch with us as well.
So, what did you think of that? That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
That's really cool, and I completely understand what the brother was saying about how it is a lost sunnah. You know, we all know that's something that was practiced heavily within Islam, and I think Imam Ali al-Islam even uses it as an example when he's talking about something like someone without knowledge is like an archer without a string to his bow. But yeah, I'd quite like to get into that. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. And it's great because obviously it's not too physical, if you get what I'm saying. No sweat and no running around involved. And obviously it helps with the posture, it helps with your eye and hand coordination. And I think it just looks like a really, really good discipline. And obviously it's safe as well, because you know, you obviously you're hitting at a target. It's not like, so to say, football or netball, where you're literally, it's kind of human to human kind of contact, and you could hit and bash into someone by accident.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we should go together sometime.
Yes, I'd definitely look forward to that. So it's time to go for a break right now, but please do join us after the break, where we will be interviewing a sister who will be talking to us about audiology. So we'll see you after the break.
So many other desires, or there's so many other just this small little things, isn't it? It's even like, for example, when you go shopping, it's say even your food shopping, forget even clothes or whatever, you know you don't really need stuff, but you just keep putting it in your trolley. And really we shouldn't be doing that, because, for ultimately that food could go to waste, or are we helping the people who really need that food? There's so many things associated to that, but do you think that that's quite easy to do in other aspects of your life, or just when it comes to things like anger?
No, you're absolutely right, actually. Yeah, I try and do self-control in terms. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Morning Break. I'm Fatma Rizvi.
And I'm Humera Mirza, and today we have our regular features such as discussing current affairs, an interview with our guest, and Hadith of the Week. And please stay tuned for part 4 of my video diary.
Yeah, I'm looking really forward to that. I can't wait. But right now it's time for Hadith of the Week. So what Hadith have you picked out, Humera?
Okay, today I picked a Hadith by the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and I think is particularly pertinent to everyone. Let me read it for you. It's the truly powerful person is the one who's conquered himself. It's very short, it's very easy, and as we've mentioned before on the shows, we like the ones that are quite short and easy, and they're easy to remember, they're easy to pass on as well. What I personally like about this is obviously how, really I think what that sums up is that concept of jihad al-nafs, which is really if you do conquer yourself, your desires, your emotions, and just stay focused, then you know that you're kind of sorted really, aren't you?
Try that, it does work. You know, if you are obviously upset or you are angry and you're standing up and you sit down, you feel a lot better, feel a lot calmer. And then if you lie down, you know, you feel even more relaxed and sort of calm. So it's amazing how these are just little techniques how you can control and conquer yourself. And it's really amazing how the Ahl Bayt alayhim Islam knew so much and gave us so much on how to try and conquer ourselves.
Absolutely. And do you think, I mean, often when we're talking about conquering ourselves, we always resort to talking about anger. But, you know, there's...
Yeah, that is absolutely true. But how easy is it really to conquer yourself?
Not very easy at all, really, is it? I don't know. I think, from my point of view, I think that there's, to go with this hadith, there's quite a few things that we could do to make sure that we are working towards conquering ourselves. You know, for example, like I think we've mentioned it before, that if we're angry, then Imam Ali alayhi salam has a hadith which says, you know, to sit down and then do this and then do that. Yeah. All of these things contribute towards, I guess, ultimately conquering yourself.
Yeah, no, you're right. And actually, if you